Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I am your host, Otto Sevilla. Today, I have a special guest. I've known him for a very long time. It's been over 30 years, right?
Something like that, since I was 91 when I moved here.
Yeah. This is Javier Fernandez, also known as Ja or Jaja. You'll hear why next. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thanks for having me, man. I mean, it's a pleasure being here. It's tough times right now, but I mean, I'll set up for anything like this. It brings us some energy, you know?
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
no pandemic going on, so.
It's always good to have positive energy, especially with all the news and everything we're hearing nowadays. So, Ja, I want to start. Well, why don't you let people know your name's Javier Fernandez, but we know you as Ja, and actually Ja is important because it's part of the name of your business. What is Ja? So the audience knows.
People called me Ja since I was a kid. Basically, my parents named me Javier. Obviously, Ja is the first two letters of that, and it just kind of grew up with family members just call me Jaja. To be exact, my first name's Javier. My middle name's my mom's maiden name, which is also Javier. So it's Javier Fernandez. That's where you get the Jaja from. And it kind of just stuck growing up. Obviously, with close family members call me Jaja or Kuya Ja, especially with my younger cousins. Kuya means big brother. And usually when in the Filipino culture, when it's anybody that's like your relative and you have like an older guy relative, usually you'll call him Kuya. And their first name or whatnot. So that's how it kind of came up with the name Kuya Ja for my small fast casual restaurant that you actually helped me find here in the DMV in Rockville, to be exact.
Yeah, it was a pleasure working with you together on that one.
Yeah, I mean it's the whole life experience, and I learned a lot from it, and hopefully we'll open some more. So
definitely. So let's just start off from the beginning. Where you're from, where you grew up.
Yeah, I was born in the Philippines, 1983. I'm in my mid-30s now. Can't remember now. Forgot my age. So after 30, I kind of just forget. But yeah, I was born in the Philippines. I moved here when I was 7 in 1991 when the Redskins won the last Super Bowl.
That was a special year.
It was a special year. It was the last time, and I moved to D.C., which was where I kind of grew up, and I met a lot of my Latino community in DC because I went to a bilingual elementary school, which is where I met you. Oyster Bilingual, right down there by Columbia Road, Northwest DC. It was a big culture shock for me. I definitely, coming from a third world country and moving into like a better world here in the United States. I mean, like I said, I learned a lot. I met a lot of different people. Going into the bilingual school, learning Spanish, easier in my part just because I have a Spanish name and the language barrier is almost similar, so it's easier for me to relate to a lot of the Latino community. Obviously, the Latino community just saw me as El Chino, you know, the Asian guy. But yeah, I grew up. I was a very athletic kid. I played a lot of sports. All my Latino friends taught me how to play soccer. I loved basketball growing up, but like I said, soccer kind of just I fell in love with the sport just playing competitively throughout high school.
You were very athletic. I remember and playing soccer in the same league and basketball in the court for recess, you know?
Yeah, we did. It was every day. That's all we look forward to, you know?
Yeah. Now, Ja, you said you're from the Philippines, right? Now,
yes.
where in the Philippines? Because I know the Philippines is a beautiful island, and I think where you're from is important because of the cuisine and what you do.
Definitely. I was born on an island called Cebu. It's just one of over 7,000 islands in the Philippines. We are in the central southern part of the Philippines. We're pretty much surrounded by every other island around the Philippines. And we're very well known for our Lechon over there, which is why I opened up the first Lechon Belly restaurant here in the DMV, or maybe in the East Coast, or like, I guess the east part of the whole United States. There's not many of us out here doing pork belly lechon, or porchetta is what the Italians call it. I really got the influence from Anthony Bourdain when he first actually, I think it was in the early, or maybe 2009, 2010, when he actually went to the Philippines and exposed our lechon to the whole world to see it and what it was. And I was still around. I was still like getting out of like the DC food scene. I was working in a lot of French restaurants in the area, learning the classical French techniques in cooking, and that's kind of like where I got the influence from. And Anthony Bourdain actually brought that and showed the whole world what Cebu was like, and I wanted to bring that to the DMV.
So you were in your 20s when you saw that show, and that's sort of what sort of clicked on you?
Yeah, that's sort of what kind of like got me to like really start learning the lechon and how to really cook it and doing it my own way, obviously putting my own twist to it and bringing it in here to the DMV. And like I said, I take a lot of pride in cooking lechon just because of where I grew up from, which is Cebu. I've eaten a lot of lechons over there. That it's like, and he said it in his show, it was probably the best lechon he's ever had. And as you can, if you've seen some of his show, he's been all over the world eating lechons in Puerto Rico, Cuba, and everywhere, you know, obviously. And for him to say that it was the best one he's had in his life, and it's in a small island in the Philippines called Cebu, it woke me up, you know, and I was just like, yeah, I got to bring that here to DMV and really showcase that food. It's easy to relate to the Americans because I think American cuisine, it's almost like a melting pot, but they are known for like barbecue, whole roast pig, and it's very similar to that of the Philippines. So
now, the lechon in Cebu, out of the whole country, that's sort of the most famous dish, the lechon?
Yes. The Cebuanos, we call them, the people that are from Cebu.
From your area.
Yeah, are known for lechon. I mean, they make lechon all over the country, all over the islands, and they have their own versions, but people know Cebuanos make the best. They'll ship it to any parts of the country and in a box, fresh, right out of the charcoal, right off the griller, you know, and it'll go to another island maybe a few hours later, and the skin is mahogany crispy, and people take a lot of pride in that. It's about the crispy skin that's the art of cooking lechon.
Now, are both of your parents also from Cebu?
Yes, they were both born there. They actually moved here 4 years prior to me moving here, obviously to make a better living for themselves and just get out of the Philippines. And yeah, I think they moved in 87. And then 4 years later, me and my sister, older sister, came right along 4 years later, 1991.
And you were 7 when you came, you said?
Yeah, I was 7.
7, okay. Now, growing up here, was the lechon belly something popular in the household, that dish, or?
Actually, no.
No? Okay.
It was more of like the whole roast pig, the whole lechon.
Okay. Not how you do it then.
No.
Okay.
Pork belly lechon actually just started less than 10 years ago in the Philippines, and it's just starting to get.
Oh, really?
Famous.
Oh, wow.
Coming from the lechon. Lechon is still the strongest household party, like deep meal. Mm-hmm. But for me, I think pork belly is the best part of the pork. And it's like I said, it was, for me, like strategically, it'd make more sense to do that, to expose it to the non-Filipinos in the area who don't know what lechon is and be like, oh, it's basically like bacon. And a lot of people, when they see pork belly in the menu, they'll usually go for it because they know it's juicy, succulent, and fatty. And I thought that was just easier to get the non-Filipinos accustomed to it.
Sure. So now going back to how you grew up in D.C., so you finished elementary, junior high, high school in D.C., and then college, I remember. You went to a couple different ones. You were trying different things, right?
Yeah, I was just trying to find myself. I didn't really play college sports or anything, so I kind of just like, I don't know what I wanted to do. I moved to Miami. I went to Johnson & Wales, which is one of the top culinary schools in the country. And I did business there, but I was like...
And this is in Miami?
This is in Miami. I was there for 2 years. I worked at a couple restaurants while I was there and really got to know, especially like the Cuban cuisine when I was there. And they have pride in their lechon as well. But I was there for 2 years. Then I went to UMBC in Baltimore, which is where I met my wife for another 2 years. And then I went to l'Académie de Cuisine, which is a local culinary school. It's a 1-year program. It's right there in Gaithersburg. Mm-hmm. I did that. And then after that, I went to just started working different restaurants all across DC, Bethesda, even Virginia at one point.
All different cuisines, different food.
Yeah. Okay. Modern American, a lot of French cuisines. Like I said, it was a great transition from coming from a French culinary school and just really learning the classical French techniques. I think, personally, to me, I think classical French techniques is basically the background to all of cuisines in the world. I think Japanese has their own. That's a whole nother cuisine where you can actually learn different techniques. But when you go to any other country, I think French is like the basics to all of cooking.
Now, how did you go into even culinary school? Where did that interest or that passion come from?
Yeah, my dad is a self-taught personal chef, and my mom has been working for the same family. Basically, they started off as like a housekeeper for a wealthy family in the DC area. They've been working for them for over 30 years. Mm-hmm. And like I said, my dad just self-taught himself through books and cooking just by experience.
And all types of dishes, right? Or
yeah,
okay.
A lot of Jewish dishes, a lot of Greek dishes, a lot of European dishes, and American, obviously. Just making sure the family is happy with their cuisine. Sure. And also my mom definitely has a big influence on me because she started a bakery out of her own basement, just catering to local Filipinos in the area.
And this started when you were young, or how?
When I was still in DC. I remember this. She would actually have me help. And every Filipino party we went to, she would make the best desserts in there. And I remember that. And then I think throughout when I moved to high school, I went to St. John's, a military road, but we moved to Chevy Chase. And I remember having a basement there, and she transformed the whole basement into like her bakery.
Wow.
It got bigger off there. And actually, no, it was, the catering started getting big in Chevy Chase. And a couple of years later, they moved to a house in Germantown, and that was like a three-story house. The basement was transformed into as like a home baking for her to like make the, I guess, catering business bigger. And my sister,
would you help her with that, with the baking?
Yes.
Okay.
I just remember that's when I was a kid. She'd have me mix all the batters for her leche flan and a lot of breads that she did. And my sister, surprisingly, she actually took over the pastry business. She made it to what it is today, which is Gwenny's Pastries. And they pretty much deliver to all the local Asian markets in the DMV area, from Baltimore all the way down to Virginia. And they do a lot of classical Filipino pastries. And she just started Whole Foods a few months ago, right before the pandemic started. There's Whole Foods over in Tyson's Corner. Pretty nice Whole Foods. And just a few products of hers. She doesn't do everything.
Sure.
And she also got big with the whole Amazon selling. And she's been blowing up in Amazon. Obviously, as you can see, I'm sure this whole pandemic, I mean, everyone's switching towards online buying and whatnot. And it's just, she's doing really well for herself. But yeah, she took over. She graduated from St. John's University in New York as a hospital administration, nothing to do with pastries. But I think her and my mom had a deal going on. I was still in culinary school, and I was trying to do my own thing and learning the front, like not the pastry side, but basically the savory side of cooking. And so, yeah, my sister took over that business, and so rest history from there.
So for you, Ja, the whole thing started basically seeing your dad cooking in the kitchen, your mom with her bakery in the basement. And that sort of sparked your interest growing up as a young kid, as far as maybe this being a possible avenue for you to take in your career and your life.
Definitely. I think it was mostly my mom that kept pushing me to go into culinary school.
Oh, it was her?
Yeah, she was definitely the one pushing. My dad's really laid back.
But did you like it? Did you like it? Were you enjoying it?
I mean, I loved it. As soon as I actually got more experience, and like, especially when I went to La Academy and we got a lot more hands-on experience. Because like I said, I went to Johnson & Wales in Florida, but I did business there, so I never really was in the kitchen. Okay. And until I experienced every day working in the kitchen, early hours, and just being in a classroom, that's when it kind of sparked for me, you know. And we did 6 months of externship where you're actually in the restaurant getting paid and actually working, and you're working your way up the ladder. And that's kind of what brought me the drive to actually get better every day doing my craft and start this business that I have today.
Now, with the restaurant, how did you start off? Did you start off in what type of position and role when you were starting off back then?
Yeah, I mean, I did dishwasher for about a month.
Okay.
But I've always wanted to learn what the next level was, which is obviously a prep, and you work the line, and you work the lead cook. There's a bunch of ladders you got to hit, and I was always interested in learning as much as I can every day, which is, I think, what the chefs was attracted to for me working. When I was working for them, they, like I said, I moved my way up. The faster I learned things every day. When it came to a different restaurant, some people will be in the dishwashing station for like 6 months or maybe more if they're not learning as much, But I was always eager to learn new things and try to be better.
So would you say that was? I was going to say, do you think that's one of the main difference? And as far as, because you see people there in restaurants, they're still in the similar position, or maybe not much, and they're still there. Yeah. But
I think you really got to have the passion to do everything and learn everything as much as you can as you're working in these restaurants, because it's a hostile environment, man. It's not for everybody.
It's a hard job.
It's a hard job, yeah. It's really not for everybody. A lot of people go to culinary school and then they switch off to a different direction just because they realize how hard it is. It's hot in the kitchen. I mean, and if you're not doing the right job, I mean, you'll get yelled at. It can get kind of crazy. I've seen some crazy stuff happen in the kitchen. Thank God, not to me, but I've seen it to other cooks. I've seen it's a lot of other cooks who weren't paying attention. I mean,
what's
pans getting like thrown at just because food wasn't cooked right. Plates that look like a hot mess, and chef just grabbing it and just throwing it right there in the middle of a hot line. I mean, it's.
So this is like Gordon Ramsay type of thing you see on TV.
It happens in the stuff you see on TV. I mean, that stuff happens. I mean, maybe not to the Gordon Ramsay extent, but I mean, like, it makes you wake up and realize you really gotta have passion for it, and you gotta like master your craft.
You have to have your stuff together.
Because if you don't, I mean, you see why a lot of these like shows on TV. It's like the chef always being crazy because he had to go through the same thing. And, like, it's basically the chef's name. Look, if something happens, it's him. I mean, it's his responsibility. They're going to blame him. That's not going to be the other cook. So this is why there's a lot of stress in it. And once your name is on the board for opening up a restaurant, it's a lot of stress, man. I mean, a lot of times the chefs don't even have to cook. They just make sure everything's there. And if it's not up to par, somebody's going to get blamed at and somebody's going to get screamed at.
Yeah. Now,
it's like I said.
Ja, even back then when you were working, were you thinking about one day opening and having your own location and space, or when did it? I know you said the Anthony Bourdain, you saw that and it made you think of, what about this possibility? But before that, were you already thinking, hey, maybe one day I want to have my own location? Or when did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, it was definitely a scary thing to think of, because there's just so much things that goes on into opening up a restaurant. And after about in my 8th and 10th year in the business, becoming a sous chef, I told myself I'm not going to become a chef until I actually own the restaurant. I don't want to become a chef and still have a boss on top of me, like telling me what I can do. And then they're the ones shining, I mean, I'm trying to be a chef, be my own boss, and have my passion and my vision of the restaurant get exposed, not somebody else's, because I have another boss and it's their idea, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I think that's where the sous chef should be put in. But I mean, like I said, there's a lot of these bigger businesses who have a lot of money, and they'll hire chefs, and then, you know what I mean, they still have their boss. The chef isn't really the boss until the big man, who's the owner usually, will have the last say. And I didn't want to do that. I mean, I've gotten a bunch of offers while I was a sous chef, like, hey, can you take over? Can you become a chef? And I kind of had to decline it because I wasn't ready to be a chef and still have another boss on top of me. So it took a while. But as soon as I really found that passion of what I really wanted to do, and obviously when I started a family, I had to really think fast and come up with a business idea to really make it my own.
Mm-hmm. And then is that when you left? Because you left the last restaurant where you were a sous chef, but you didn't immediately go and open your own location. What was the transition then? What happened?
Yeah, I think I was my first daughter in, and I was just like, hey, I think it's time. I was selling pork belly lechon on the side, catering on the weekends out of my own house. I was using my oven here in the house. The house smelled like lechon for a couple of days after every time.
Now, were you still a sous chef at the other restaurant, or you had left that
Yeah,
already?
I was a sous chef at the other restaurant.
Okay, so you were doing this on the side, on your time off.
I was doing it on the side, okay. And then this is when Facebook was getting bigger. And obviously, you can post anything on there, and people get comments.
Sure.
People start talking about it, and that's how it started. I think it was in 2012, 2013.
With Facebook.
And then when I finally made the decision, I'm going to take off and really get this going. I was lucky enough that my sister, she'd already had a warehouse where she had her own kitchen basically, where she was building up her catering side, her business. And she gave me a hand and let me use the kitchen, and host my pop-ups there on the weekends. And it brought a lot of attention in the whole city. People were actually talking about it. People were coming in, and tell you this, we were only doing it on Saturdays and Sundays. Actually, at one point we did Fridays and Saturdays, and we were closed Sundays. But eventually we switched off to Saturdays and Sundays, and there was lines out that door, and it was in this warehouse that you can't. When you're out front, you look at it. It's just like it looks like in a garage. You know what I mean? And then people in there lining up every weekend, getting ready to order. We had catering orders every weekend, and even the holidays were crazy with just people ordering bellies, because sometimes it's really hard to order a whole lechon, you know what I mean? And then there's a lot of leftovers. I think the belly is where I thought it was the best marketing strategy to open up that business, because it's boneless and you can eat every part of it. And like I said, people were talking about it. I had a few writers that I wrote to, and they responded. They came in, they wrote some articles about it. And a year into that, I think that's when I was talking to you, and we were just looking around at places and
decided to pull the trigger. Okay. So you were for about 1 year then at posting the pop-up on the weekends then before you
we were about a year. And then maybe midway towards the end of that, me and you started looking at spaces. Mm-hmm. And we're going back and forth. This is one of the first spaces we looked at. We kind of just brushed it off. And like a few months later, I think they reached out back to us, or we reached back out to them that they couldn't find a place, and we agreed on it, right?
Yeah.
That was the history, right?
I think it was something like that. Now,
yeah.
So this is very unique. Well, not unique, and I want to mention this, job, because what I've noticed, especially with a lot of different retail businesses, if it's a startup, if it's their first location, if they already have a strong following on social media, like mm-hmm. your case and other clients I've had, it's just already a huge success. It's such a huge
It definitely is.
So you started with Facebook, you told me, 2013 or something, when you started doing the pop-ups, right?
Mm-hmm. And well, I was doing the catering on the side out of my own house, and that's how I got a following. And then I started my pop-up at my sister's bakery. So that even got a bigger following, and it just kind of led on to the opening of the restaurant. I mean, if I can tell you, if I had videos and pictures of grand opening, it was crazy. We had to close the next day because it was that bad. We sold out of literally everything, and it was.
And this was the hard opening, not the soft opening, right?
Yeah, this is a hard opening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, soft opening was kind of crazy too, but I mean, like I said, we had 1 week to really prepare for opening, because we just wanted, you know how it is when you construct a brand new restaurant and everything. There's a lot of delays here and there, and rent's coming up, but you got to open up soon. And then, like I said, we had 1 week to prepare. I had 1 week to train all my staff and making sure everything was the way I wanted, and it was chaos. It took me a good 2-3 months to really just relax and trust my staff. I mean, I was there every day. I was out of the restaurant at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd be back in the restaurant at like 2 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, between 4 or 5 o'clock a.m. So I'd have 2-3 hours of sleep. I was basically living in the restaurant for the first 2-3 months. And then, I mean, we got a great following, and nobody's really doing what I'm doing in the DMV right now, and this kind of food and fast casual, and make it still upscale and not so like, it's like a fast food kind of restaurant, And Filipino cuisine is still on the rise. It's been on the rise for quite a while now. And it's, like I said, not a lot of people still know what it is. We still got a lot of educating to do when it comes to consumers and telling them what we're about. And a lot of times when you ask non-Filipinos, oh, what's Filipino food? You got to explain to them exactly what it is, and they don't really know what it is. But when they see the pork belly, it's like they definitely go for it when they see something beautiful like that. And it's like I said, the Italians love it because they have something similar called the porchetta. It's basically the same thing. But I think the skin is where ours differentiates from the other cuisines.
You've done an excellent, as far as educating though, you've done an excellent job with the marketing, with the PR, whether it's social, whether it's print, newspaper, magazines, whatever it may be. Now, is this just you? Is this someone else helping you?
No, man. This is my.
If you can share with the people here how because you've done a tremendous job with that. It's, I mean, I know it started with Facebook and then Instagram.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with my wife, my other partner, man. She's basically the backbone to my restaurant. Her name is Jennifer Cheng. She's actually putting the kids to sleep right now. But she has a full-time job for the census. She works about 4 days a week, 3 days at home, and 1 day in the office. But obviously with this whole pandemic, she's been in the house every day. But she's basically the backbone to the restaurant. She overlooks everything, back of the house, numbers, marketing. We've got cameras all over the restaurant, keep making sure our staff is on point, doing everything what we're supposed to be doing. But a lot of my marketing has to do with her. I didn't hire, like a lot of these new restaurants, they'll hire an agent, like a marketing agent to actually do all their marketing work. And people thought we did that. And it's just my wife. I had to take a lot of it to her.
So she's just reading out to these food critics and foodies, whether the magazines, publications, online, social media.
Yeah. What started the whole article thing was me reaching out to a couple Eater is a big thing in the country right now. Every big city has their own DC Eater.
Yes.
So I actually started this when I started my first pop-up with my sisters. I was reading a bunch of Eater articles and new restaurants coming up here and there, new ideas. And so I looked at the bottom of the article. There's obviously a writer there. So I would look up the writer, I'd reach out to them on Facebook. I'm like, hey, this is a new concept. You definitely got to check this out. And that's how we got a following on a couple writers.
And they would respond to you. Most of them would respond to you?
Yeah, Bethesda Magazine, a famous writer, David Hagedorn. He's a pretty well-known food writer in the DMV. Every restaurant knows who he is. And he's a writer for the Arlington Magazine, the Bethesda Magazine, the food section usually. And he came out and tried the food in our little hole-in-the-wall garage. And he's been inviting me to a lot of his events. The Chefs for Equality event is one of the biggest chefs event in the DMV. And that's I kind of just worked from that point on. People kind of read the article. People saw me in social media. Like I said, Instagram is a big hit right now. Everyone's on Instagram, especially when it comes to food pictures and all that. I'm constantly on my staff.
Everyone's a food critic.
Everyone's a food critic nowadays. So I'm constantly on my staff about posting pictures every day because, like I said, when you have those followers, they're expecting to see new pictures every day, new ideas and whatnot. And if you're not on top of that, I don't know, it kind of just goes back downhill. But I mean, luckily, we've been on top of it every day. It's a lot of hard work. And like I said, if you don't have the passion to do this kind of work, you're in the wrong business. But
so who's posting the pictures? You or your staff? They're taking a picture and posting it to social?
We're all doing it. We're all doing it together. I'll post some pictures. I usually, before we post pictures, we'll either send it to our managers, all the managers. We have 2 managers in the restaurant. We'll send it to my wife. It's us 4 in a group, and we'll send it to each other. If they like it, we'll post it. If they don't like it, we'll edit it. You know what I mean?
And this to the restaurant page, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
For our Instagram, a lot of Instagram pictures you can actually collaborate with Facebook. So when you post on Instagram, you post it on Facebook as well. But yeah, and nowadays we're just trying to do a lot of community events and just try to get our word out, our name out there, and I think that's what you got to do, especially in this competitive business when it comes to restaurants, because restaurants are opening left and right. And there's a big margin of failing if you don't do it right, I think.
Yes. I'm actually
a lot of people think, oh, it's just about cooking. That's basically like 20% of it. Like the rest, everything. There's so much other things that matter when it comes to opening a restaurant, and it's really hard. And again, with this whole pandemic going on, it's tough, man.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because as you mentioned, there are some that are not going to make it through this. But
there's actually a lot, and it's the whole world that's affected. It's not just the DMV, and there's a lot of bigger names in the country or in the world that are actually trying to make a movement for it and trying to raise some money, some awareness of what they need to actually bring them back to business. There's a close chef friend that I know. His name is Chef Kwame Nwachi. He owns a restaurant at the Wharf, Kithenkin. They actually closed down as well, and he's a big public figure when it comes to the food business in the DMV, and he's doing a lot as well to raise money and awareness, especially reaching out to the government and trying to get some help from them. So
sure. But you think you did things a little different as far as getting ahead of the curve with some of these restaurants and the PPP money and everything else. So what did you do?
We definitely got the PPP money. Like I said, if you got the PPP money, there's a lot of ways you can go about it. There's so many different options, and it really you kind of just make the best out of it from business standpoint. You want to make sure you're not losing money. You want to make sure you're making money. And I think like I said, if you keep the money and not get any of the forgiveness plan, then you can actually pay it off within 2 years with only 1% interest rate. So, I mean, there's really different ways you can play about it. But, thank God for the PPP money. I mean, some of the smaller restaurants, if your rent's not high enough, it's not too high, then I think you can bounce back. Go ahead, me and my wife were definitely looking for the safety side and just trying to keep everybody quarantined and staying at home. But when you open a restaurant, man, you have staff that have become your family, and you want to help them out. And they started after the first month, they were reaching out to us and we said, "Hey, when are you going to get a job?" Or we need money and all this stuff. So we kind of had no choice to actually open up. If we could have probably just waited until this whole virus would really calm down. As you can see, it's not calming down at all, and especially in Maryland. I think yesterday they had over 732 something increase. And the average for the last couple of weeks was like in the hundreds maybe. And everyone's opening up nowadays. So it's a little scary, definitely. There's a lot of different tactics you got to do when you reopen, obviously changing the habits of being more cleanliness, washing your hands more often and whatnot. And there's a lot of help on the social media side that you can actually watch and help you reopening the restaurant. So
are you open already?
Today was actually our first day of opening the restaurant, not to the public, but just preparing everything. We have a set date on the coming week. We'll let everybody know this weekend. When the date will happen, when the date will be. Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to happen within the next week or two.
Okay.
But yeah, we need to get some staff in, and just try to get them paid. Help their families out and whatnot. Like I said, they become family after working with them for 2 years. We just hit our 2-year mark a couple of weeks ago. So unfortunately, we weren't open. We had big plans for it, but like I said, we're gonna come back to this a little bit stronger than when you closed down. So hopefully, everything will work out.
I'm glad. The important thing is you're going to open, because some of these restaurants are not even going to open.
Exactly. And that's the crazy part about it. You helped me find this amazing spot where the rent's not crazy high, and we're in a prime location right here in the heart of Rockville, right north of Bethesda. And thank God for that. And I think we can definitely bounce back from this.
Yeah. That's why I was asking about the PPP, because as I mentioned to you earlier, I was talking to another client, and he was telling me he went to one of the big national banks, Bank of America. And he was like, he got zero.
Yeah, they got none.
But you did things a little different. You went local.
Some of the smaller local banks that actually, when it first came out, a lot of these banks that actually didn't even know what to do with it. They didn't know how to explain to the consumers what to do with the PPP money. So it took them quite a couple of weeks to actually understand what's going to happen and whatnot. And then luckily I have some restaurant industry friends who sent me a few emails to a few accountants who emailed us explaining exactly which way to go about this. And there's like 4 or 5 different options. And we kind of just waited, mainly for the safety of everybody, and which is the reason why we closed. We didn't want to, coming from me, I have two little girls. I didn't want to bring any of that stuff back, especially to my parents. You know, they're getting older and whatnot. And that's the reason why we closed, just because we wanted all our staff to be safe and whatnot. Because prior to us closing, we already started the whole curbside delivery or curbside drop off and whatnot. And we were busy. Like I said, I just didn't want to risk getting the virus and spreading it to my staff and whatnot. And I really wanted their safety, and that they understood prior to us closing. We explained to every single staff. A lot of these bigger companies, they just kind of shut them down and left them hanging, you know. Lucky for me, I'm a smaller business, so like I said, I treat my staff like family, and I kept in touch with them. We actually raised a GoFundMe app right when we closed, and it raised a good amount of money where we took care of them for almost over a month, maybe like 6 weeks. And every week, every time they have like a food drive or whatever, they were giving out free groceries. Some of these big restaurant purveyors were actually giving out free groceries. I would send it to all my staff, text them exactly where it is, what time you need to be there, just trying to help them out as much as we could, you know.
That's great.
But yeah, when you look back to it, and you got no restaurant with no good staff. So
yeah,
a lot of these business owners, you got to really take care of your staff. Some of them, they don't take care of them. You know, I mean, some of the bigger companies at least. But so you see some of these bigger millionaire companies who is trying to get PPP, and they're getting put on blast on social media for taking
they have to return it back.
Yeah, and they had to return it back after realizing, they just got blasted on social media. Yeah, so
you have to do things right.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, money's nothing when your family's not healthy sometimes, you know. So you gotta think about that sometimes. But
so those accountants, Ja, were the ones who referred you to the banks, or how did you end up?
No, the accountants that gave us advice was basically just giving us advice on how to go up
the different options
after getting it. We were lucky to get the PPP because I think there was like a vote. There's a time when you applied, they gave you a number of how many people like voted.
Okay.
And like I said, my wife was on top of it. She was, I think, number 27 out of the whole.
Oh, wow.
Like Maryland. And I talked to my other restaurant friend who applied around the same time. It was like 1 o'clock you had to apply or something, and she got like 100 something. But I mean, this was for the businesses in Maryland. So
yeah. So Jen was on it.
She actually got the PPP prior to us. I don't know how to get. I mean, we got approved, but you got to like wait and see how much you were getting. You know.
Yeah, but you're submitting your docs and everything with the lender.
Yeah.
So which lender did you end up going with?
Actually,
you don't remember?
I actually don't remember the.
Okay, I was just wondering.
My wife will have that information.
So you should be opening hopefully within the next few weeks, though.
Next week.
Okay. Well, let me.
Yeah, it's just like I said, we're still gonna do. We're actually just gonna do dinner time, and just like I said, still curbside pickup and deliveries. We're not trying to let anybody in the restaurant right now. Hopefully for the next couple of weeks, if things turn around and gets better, the virus numbers goes down, and I think we might open up for lunch again. Obviously we want everything back to normal, and unfortunately we didn't hire every single employee we have right now, but eventually I think we're going to end up doing that as it gets busier and busier and we go back to normal. And I told all the staff that, but they're very understanding with what's going on, especially right now. So,
okay.
But hopefully, within the next week.
Ja, let me ask you this: what's thus far the most proudest moment you've had in your business career?
Wow, business career.
Well, for the restaurant,
Yeah, for the restaurant. But when people talk about it, actually, I think that's when I'm really proud. When people talk about it on social media, especially people who've come here from other states and talk about it, I think that's when I look back. I'm like, wow, we're doing something big here. And yeah, that's definitely when I feel more proud about it. I think it wasn't so much when I first opened the restaurant, because it was like I said, it was crazy. It was crazy the first couple months, but when I got time to really relax and just look back on what we did and all the hard work, especially with my wife being on top of me and everything, and just pushing me, and I think that's, when I got time to really see it and seeing the people's response, I think that's what I'm really proud of.
Is that what you would say what drives you or motivates you, or do you think the motivation for you is that?
I don't know if you know about this app called Yelp. But yeah, like you said it before, everyone thinks they're food critics now. But as soon as I see a bad review, I can't sleep on it, man. Especially when it comes to food, I can't really control it. My wife actually had to delete my Yelp app because I was getting anxieties. I couldn't sleep at night just thinking about the reviews of when it comes to my food, you know. So obviously the first couple months, we definitely read all the reviews, especially the bad ones, and we adjust to it, you know. And over a period of time, I think people realize that reviews do matter. Sometimes they review about the stupidest little things, so I kind of ignore that. But anytime it's a food review, I'm on top of it. I'm working in the kitchen every day and out, so I'm not just like leading the team. I'm actually in the kitchen. I do prep. If I have a dishwasher missing for the day, I'm dishwashing. I'm also working the line. Same for my wife, who's never had any restaurant experience. She'll get in the back of the line with us and actually help cook on certain days when we need them, you know?
Yeah. But your reviews, Jai, I mean, even Yelp, Google, they're still excellent.
Yeah. I mean, but like I said, it's never perfect. You can't, I guess, make everybody happy as we know in the world today. So, but like I said, especially because I'm a chef, so I had to make sure the food's good, and that's what matters most. That's the reason why people come back, because of the food, you know. And if you don't do it right, you don't take those small little bad reviews seriously. I mean, who knows? Maybe it can bite you up a butt later on. But I mean, I don't dramatically like change everything. I just kind of look back and say, oh, did somebody mess up this order and whatnot? And I explained to the cook, hey, to make sure this doesn't happen again, make sure you do this. We kind of adjust, you know what I mean? If you don't adjust, then I don't know, might have a lot more bad reviews. Yeah. But
no, you have to.
But nowadays, my wife, like I said, she deleted my app. But once a week, or maybe every couple of weeks, I'll look at the Yelp and see if there's any bad reviews. But it's not like every night. I mean, there's some chefs that, like I said, they're on it every day, all day, just making sure everything's on top. They're on top of everything. So
that can get addictive, though. I understand why they took that out.
Like I said, it takes a big toll on your life, and it stresses that fuck out of you.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but I mean, like I said, it's part of the industry, and it's a lot of headaches, a lot of hard work. But in the end, I think if you see a lot of people coming in, eating your food, and it makes, like I said, that makes me proud.
Yeah. Now, you've mentioned a couple times during this conversation about your team. And I understand how important it is surrounding yourself with the right people. Yep. How many people do you have overall on your team? I know you said you currently have 2 managers. How do you even find them as far as hiring them?
Yeah. A lot of the back of the house, a lot of my cooks and preps have actually worked with me prior from other restaurants, from different restaurants, actually. I think when you open up a restaurant, a lot of the industry people, actually, you got to keep your connection with these cooks, because they're the ones that actually, you know what I mean? Like they make the restaurant. And if you don't have a good background, especially good cooks, your restaurant can fail. But luckily enough, I kept in touch with a lot of cooks from this industry. People that live in Virginia, people that live in DC, people that live in Maryland. And if I ever need a cook, they can always call me, or I'll call them, and they can refer me to another cook. You know what I mean? They a lot of times these industry people kind of know everybody. And if you're missing somebody, if you're missing a line cook and you need somebody, you kind of just reach out to another chef, and maybe they'll have somebody else. And a lot of times people will post something online and they'll refer somebody just by sending their email and whatnot.
Okay.
But
so a lot of it is referral, word of mouth, then, right? Or are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
A few were word of mouth. A few were prior cooks that used to work for me. Mainly front of the house was word of mouth. I think that's one of the best referrals ever, because people that work for you know the person, how they work. A lot of times especially front of the house, I need people that are very happy people. You can't train happiness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of industry people won't tell you this, especially in the restaurants. I mean, people coming into a restaurant and people aren't smiling, it brings that whole energy down. You know what I mean? I need people being happy and just like talkative, and definitely, obviously, like for my kind of cuisine, you got to really be able to explain what we're about and educate these new consumers. Oh, this is what we're about. And if you can't do that, I mean,
yeah,
it's not going to work out for you. So
I agree. How many people do you have overall on your team?
We have, as of right now, we just have the 2 managers. We had a meeting a couple hours ago that we're going to hire 2 more in front of the house.
Okay.
Just because of how we're going to set up with this whole people just giving the food out and expo and whatnot.
Well,
so you got about 10. We got about 10 right now.
Okay. So this is, I'm referring mostly pre-COVID, because I know COVID sort of messed everything up. But before COVID, it was around 10?
No. Right now we have about 10. And pre-COVID, we had 18.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I've actually already told most of them that I'm going to rehire them back after a couple of weeks just to see where everything is. Because, like I said, I didn't want to just leave them down. But I told them to make sure to keep looking for jobs, because you never know what could happen if the second round of virus can come back and have everybody close again, you know?
No, it's true.
So
what advice, Ja, would you give someone that's just starting out in the restaurant business today?
Advice. Oh man.
Now that you've been in it for a while.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you definitely got to have some experience. Try to really see what it's like to be in the kitchen and work in it, obviously. If you kind of go in blindsided, not knowing, or you just have an idea, you obviously want to hire the right people, obviously. I hire the right chef that's got a great reputation in the business and whatnot. Really have a vision and just going with that vision. Try not to do everything too much, or just sticking with your vision and just following with that. I know a lot of restaurants or a lot of chefs, they'll open a restaurant and want to sell every kind of food. You know, it's just too much. I mean, for me, it's a big headache, and a lot of restaurants. There's still restaurants out there that it'll work for them, but for the most part, I mean, after a year down the road, they're struggling because people don't know. Every time they go in the restaurant, they don't know what to order because it's just too much variety. I think restaurants should have one vision, one type of food, and then go for that. Filipino cuisine, I don't know if I told you this. It's just like America. It's a melting pot kind of food. We've got a lot of influence from the Spaniards, influence from the Malaysians, the Chinese, obviously. Mexico even has a lot of influence because of all the trading they did back in the day with the Portuguese settlers. As they kind of just stopped in the Philippines, and that's why we get a lot of our Spanish influence. Our names are Spanish, our words are Spanish. A lot of our streets and even the islands are named in Spanish. I mean, the food is from all over the world. When you think about Filipino food, there's not much Filipino food where it's like traditionally just it started from the Philippines, and maybe a few desserts, but a lot of our main courses, I mean, Lechon, that's pretty well known all across the world. Adobo, the Central Americans have their adobo. You know, we have just our different version of it. Caldereta, that sounds Spanish as well. Like a lot of our food, the pancit, which is a noodle dish, influenced from the Chinese. So you don't want to try to do everything when it goes back to giving advice about the restaurant. I've learned from going to different Filipino restaurants, growing up here in the DMV. They open up for a couple years, 2-3 years, 4 years max, and they kind of just go down because they try to do everything, and the cuisine hasn't been marketed the right way, I think, yet. So obviously right now it is like blowing up, but a lot of these restaurants will try to serve everything, and when people go in there, they don't know what they're eating. Like there's just so many different variations of whatnot, and I think that's the wrong way to go about it, unless your clientele is just straight Filipinos. But a lot of times there's not enough Filipinos in the DMV that will make or generate a Filipino restaurant to last for a long time, you know, unless you're like in Virginia Beach, is number 2 in population of Filipinos, or maybe California. Filipinos in California, restaurants over there can survive just by feeding the Filipinos. But here in the DMV, in smaller cities like this, there's not a great population of Filipinos. I think it's hard. But for me, I focus on the Lechon in that one restaurant. I actually on the verge of looking for another restaurant to do another type of food, which is Lechon manok, which is like a rotisserie Filipino chicken. And strictly just do that, almost like Peruvian a la brasa. I love Peruvian a la brasa, but something similar to that, but just different flavor. So, yeah, advice, man. I mean, just focus on your one vision and just make it
stay there.
Stay there. Got to definitely have a good work ethic. If you think opening up a restaurant is just having the money and just opening it, it's really not. You got to stay on top of literally everything. And
yeah, I mean, what were your hours? From 2 a.m. you would leave and then go back?
Yeah, sometimes I'd leave at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd go in my home and sleep on the couch. I didn't even have time to go upstairs. I was so tired. I'd sleep on the couch, go back in the restaurant like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was like that for about almost the first 2 months until my staff can fully like take care of every different like parts of the menu, you know?
Yeah.
I lost a good 20, 25 pounds actually just by doing that. And then once everything was calm and I can handle everything, I get it all back in like 2 days.
Oh, man.
But yeah, like I said, the restaurant can do that to you, man. It's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And,
is there anything, Ja, you would want to know from other top restaurant owners?
Is there anything I would want to know?
Yes.
I don't really know. If I look back into it, I mean,
because I know you already know a lot of other restaurant owners and you're connected with them.
Yeah.
But someone starting off might not have those connections already. So I'm trying to think, what would they want to know?
I mean, I think networking is definitely a good thing. Hitting up different chefs and knowing who to call for purveyors has a lot to do with that as well. Because like I tell you before, cooking is only one part. You got to know food costs. You got to know where to buy the cheaper ingredients, make it into something amazing. You know what I mean? Just in the end, you want to make money. So you definitely got to have some networking pieces available to call if you have any other questions, like I said. Yeah, I guess just having the right people around you, networking.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those people have the right answers as well. They've been through it, especially people who've owned a bunch of restaurants. They've failed, they've succeeded, they've failed. So a lot of times they'll have the answers for you when it comes to that.
So this last phase is called the fast round. The fast round is where I say a quick statement and you give me your first thought that comes to your mind. You ready?
Got it.
Okay. So what's the biggest challenge you've had so far in Kuya Jazz?
Balancing everything, family, kids, wife, and the business aspect of the restaurant. I think a lot of restaurant chefs will tell you that. You're not going to spend a lot of time with your family. So I think balancing all that, making your wife and making your kids happy, that's the biggest challenge.
Okay. What would you have wished you've known back then before starting your restaurant?
I think the marketing part of it. Obviously, we did a good part of marketing, but if I had reached out to more people instead of just like one writer, I think it would have helped out a lot more. It would have, I mean, as crazy it was already, I think it would have been even more crazy. I think my biggest dream is still having some of these bigger like TV guys coming in here and like putting us out there, you know. Anthony Bourdain was actually my biggest dream, to actually come in here and taste the lechon and be like, hey, I don't have to go to Cebu. And it's right here in the DMV.
Yeah.
Right before he passed, the late Anthony Bourdain passed, he actually was in the middle of opening up a market in New York where he could have some Filipino food actually in there. And that was like my biggest dream, to have him come here and try it out and maybe open up a stall over there. But unfortunately, he passed. So, yeah. A lot of props go out to him and helping us get exposed for our cuisine.
So your main thing was reaching out to more people, meaning more writers to get the word out more.
Yeah.
Instead of just one, you needed to just more action with that.
Definitely.
Okay. Now, when I
like
say,
I said, like I said, just because I don't have the marketing agent to do that for me, I kind of had to do it myself.
You've done a great job doing it, though.
It worked, yeah. And
yes,
I actually advised my sister to do the same thing. In the last couple of months, she's been getting exposed, man. She actually just reached out to is a food blogger called the Food God.
Okay.
He's actually the Kardashians' like best friend. He lives in Miami, and he like posts him up on Facebook, on social media. She was like, "Yo, I love ube. Ube is like the next big thing. It's like a purple yam dessert in the Philippines." And he's like, "I love ube. If you send me everything," I guess telling my sister this, and next thing you know, she ships it overnight. She has this big I guess he posted it on his Instagram.
Okay, so he gave her a shout out?
Basically.
Okay.
And like I said, stuff like that, you know. I mean,
yeah.
This guy has 3-4 million followers, and to put his
story,
huge. Everyone, all the people just saw his story. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But just one little thing like that, and it's easy to access these bigger names, you know, these influencers they call them. So.
Thank goodness for the internet and social media.
Yeah, man, social media is just
some people say bad things about it, and there's pros and cons to it, but there's huge benefits.
Yeah, you definitely gotta do it right. Social media it's big, man, and marketing nowadays it's free. Before you had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to actually put your name out there. Now it's out there. All this media, you can get it for free if you just do it right.
And the social media that you do, John, Facebook or Instagram and everything else, the other platforms, you're not boosting it as far as paying it. This is just organic that you're doing, right?
Yeah, it's all free stuff, man. I think at one point I reached out to a famous comedian. He's a famous Filipino-American comedian, and he actually popped into my sister's pop-up one weekend. Like I said,
let me guess, Joy Coy?
Joe Coy, yeah. Today he's blowing up. He's got 3 shows on Netflix. This is just because I reached out to him. I said hi to him. I'm like, "Hey, come by." And I'm good friends with his DJ, actually. Every time they're in the area, he'll message me. His DJ came by a few months ago with his marketing agent that sells his merch. And they came by to the restaurant, ate, and he says probably the top 5 best lechon he's ever had in the world, he said. I was just like, wow, man, that meant a lot, you know?
That's awesome. Now, when I say success, who is the first person you think of?
Oh, I got to say my parents. They've done a lot, man, just showing us how to live life and always supporting your kids, you know, and just making sure they succeed as well. And I think both my parents did that. I think a lot of people relate to this as well.
Good. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Who would you say is your biggest mentor? And what did you learn from that relationship?
Otto Sevilla, man.
Thank you. No, seriously.
There's a lot, man. My dad's one of them. My dad's boss, he's been a big influence to me as well. I think you know who he is. His name is Ralph Dweck.
Yes.
And their families, they've helped me out. They've helped out my family throughout my years living here in the States, you know. They've always given us advice on what to do, especially when it comes to properties and businesses and whatnot, what we could do, what we could not do. I think those are the first people that come to mind. But when it comes to my field and learning the business, I have 2 chefs that I really looked up to, which was Chef Patrick Orange, who was a chef for over 30 years at La Chumere in Georgetown. It's a classical French restaurant. It's still there today. He actually retired. And Chef Christian Gautour, who was my chef at another French restaurant in Bethesda called Praline's Bakery and Bistro. And they've taught me how to really just don't take any shortcuts and just do everything right. I take a lot of influence from them when it comes to the restaurant business.
That's awesome. Now,
2 French chefs.
Yeah, two French chefs.
Yeah.
You've been to France though, right?
Yeah, I've been to France once I think.
Okay.
A few years ago, maybe when I was in my college days with my sister.
That's good. Beautiful as France.
I mean, I love cooking the food. But I always wanted to go back to my heritage, Filipino food. I love learning the techniques, but you always want to cook the food that you kind of grew up eating, and that's what everybody tries to do when it comes to trying to open up new ideas, new concepts, new restaurants. And as you can see in the culture of DC food scene, it's a lot of these new cultural restaurants opening up now. Back then, it was modern, fancy French fine dining restaurants. Now it's like you got the Lao movement coming in. Thai has been in there. People laugh when they heard sushi in the 80s in movies, Now it's like everybody eats it. It's
everywhere.
And I think Filipino food is trying to be in the same level. Obviously, it's still got a lot of work to do. Indian food's up there. Mexican is delicious and amazing. I think they've got their platform already, but there's a bunch of these little movements coming in, and Filipino movement's still trying to get up there.
You'll be a big part of that push, I'm sure.
I hope so. I mean, we got one of the best Filipino restaurants in the DMV right now, which is Bad Saint in DC and Columbia Heights, and props out to him, man. I mean, like I said, it's a small, tiny restaurant, and to get that much attention, I mean, you've succeeded, definitely. So,
yeah. What do the next 5 years look like for you? What's the vision you have?
More craziness, more stress. Like I said, I plan on opening up a few more restaurants. Just
different concepts, right? Or staying with the same brand.
I definitely want to open 1 or 2 more Lechon belly restaurants. Like I said, I try to keep it small, making sure the quality is right, and getting everybody to know what Lechon belly is. And like I said, I want to get into that the chicken business. There's a lot of profit margin when it comes to chicken. Rotisserie chicken is a lot cheaper than pork belly, and business strategy wise, I think it's a lot smarter. And like I said, keep it small, keep it simple, and keeping the quality amazing. I think that's the key to succeeding in a small restaurant business. You always want to keep the quality perfect and consistent. Now, but the next 5 years, like I said, it's still going to be more craziness and just trying to open up more restaurants. That's the biggest dream.
Now, you also mentioned to me about a DTC, direct to consumer. So as far as working on some products, right, that you can I know you mentioned before in the conversation your sister and what she's done, but I think you're also trying to incorporate some of those things.
Yeah, I actually today I had a meeting with my HACCP lady.
Your what lady? I'm sorry?
My HACCP plan lady.
Okay.
We're going to try to actually sell my chorizo. We have a chorizo in our restaurant called it's a longaniza. Like I said, it's pretty common sausage as well to other countries like Puerto Rico. But our version is a sweet chorizo. A lot of people eat it for breakfast with rice and eggs, but people can eat it like all throughout the day as well. But we're going to try to bag it up and sell it throughout the country online. We'll probably ship it out frozen. But yeah, we're just probably within the next 2 weeks, we're going to start selling it online. Okay. We're getting all our equipment in and try to get approved by the county and by the state if we're going to sell it outside of Maryland. I plan on selling it outside of Maryland. But yeah, we're getting all our paperwork done and just making sure we get approved in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I'll be selling raw, frozen Filipino meat, or chorizo, as you call it. And like I said, that's probably one of the up-and-coming business strategy now on with online sales and whatnot. And
that's huge.
Amazon,
I mean, people are doing like sauces and everything. Like
people do bottled sauces and whatnot. I mean, I could definitely go into that area because, like I said, nobody's really doing what I'm doing and selling it the way I'm selling it. It's different. People are used to like hot sauces, barbecue sauces and whatnot, but like Filipino flavors, I don't think that they've really had that. So I think it's a good way to step away from the restaurant business and kind of experience that side of the business, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Diversify.
Yeah, definitely. I guess so. That's what you call it.
Yeah. Last question. What do you like to do for fun?
Oh, man. Black Mama said it before he passed. I mean, it's spending time with the kids, man. I mean, this past 2 months of just being at home quarantine and spending time with my daughters every day. I mean, last night when I realized I was going to go back to work and be like, I kind of had a moment, you know, I was talking to my kids. I was like, hey, I'm going to go back to work. seeing less of you. But definitely spending more time with them, spending more time with the grandparents, my parents. As you get older and you see this pandemic, people are dying left and right. I think life is just about memories, man. I mean, yeah, you make money, you succeed in all these businesses and whatnot, but like you're kind of nothing without those memories, you know? Yeah. And I learned this from another mentor of mine, saying like, you don't want to be like 60, 70 years old in a retirement home, looking back, regretting you could have done this, you could have done that. So, obviously spending more time with family members and at the same time getting more things done, just not really rushing, but like no regrets when you get older, you know? So yeah, definitely spending more time with your family and loved ones and friends. And with you, Otto.
All right, John. So in the end, where can people find you as far as where are you located, your address or phone number, or your handles for social media?
We're located in Rockville, Maryland. White Flint, where the White Flint Mall used to be. It's in a shopping center there. The address is 5268-H Nicholson Lane, right on the side where Domino's Pizza is. And there's also a UPS literally right next to our restaurant. And you can find us on Facebook, kuyajaz.com as well. That's our website. And our Instagram page is on there as well. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. And come try our Lechon belly, man. I mean, it's a new thing in town. If you've never tried it, I think it's a good place to try Filipino food as well and get exposed to that.
Yeah, definitely. Ja, thank you, brother, for being on. I appreciate
it. Hey, man.
Everyone listening, please subscribe.
I love you, Otto. Thanks for having me and being the first one. I mean, I appreciate this. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.